coming from a young person, I don't know how that just happened.
I don't either.
But coming from a young person, we definitely respect those types of moments way more than even maybe we let you guys know. So hopefully not too much of that cut out,
I
but
hope y'all didn't
uh,
miss it.
absolutely.
Yes,
Sorry about that. It's a
absolutely.
technical difficulty.
Yes, but we're back.
Yes.
Yes, I think that setting expectations is critically important because you really do want to keep having the conversation. It's really kind of testing the waters and coming back to
Yeah, I like that.
yeah to say, okay, so let's see how it's going, and I just think that's important with any of the conversations. There should be ongoing conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, just why the conversation is important. It encourages the plan ahead skill, right? So I want to be very clear that, you know, putting things on your calendar and, all of that is not necessarily the plan ahead skill. There's a lot more to that, right? And I think a lot of it comes more into that, you know, that interpersonal, journey and introspection of, as I've said, what things do I like, what things do I not like, how far, is too far, and, when things go too far, if I cross a line, what are the signs that that's happened, right? And so all of these things, while actively considering, honestly, like your own well-being, right? Like, that's really more of what, like, I believe the plan ahead skill to be. I know for me, like, there are just days where I just like kind of need to be in my room and just like hang out and like it's just me and my thoughts, and that's cool, right? But I know I cannot be on my video game like too long those days. I know I can't be scrolling on social media until I fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like there has to be things that I'm doing, some big or small, right? Big or small. I step outside every day. Like I really actively step outside every day and stuff like that. So it doesn't matter what it is, but making sure like if you can tell, maybe certain anniversaries come up, right? Just, you can tell that it's been a tough week, right? And you're going to, at some point, end up kind of feeling that rot of it and stuff. Making sure that you put some healthy things on the agenda for yourself, right? And show up to do those things, right? It's really more also in the times in which, things are going to be tougher for you, right? So planning ahead in a healthy way to make sure you respond better in those moments.
Well, I think that the plan ahead skill, when you start out with that in the conversations, you're setting a foundation for that to always be, right?
Yeah.
How your children look at having a phone, right?
Yeah.
That they develop those habits of planning ahead, even plan ahead that I'm not going to have my phone on for a certain time. Plan ahead that when I go to sleep, it's not going to be right here, right next to me, like my pillow, right?
Right. That's
I
huge.
think that's important.
That's absolutely huge.
Yeah. So if you're going to have the conversation, right, we want to give you some tips for what might be important for having the conversation.
Awesome.
We're going to start off with do your research.
Yeah.
I see a lot of us do research around the phone. What's the best? But do your research around the dangers of having a phone, particularly at a younger age. It's important. When I was doing my research for this show, there were articles written by 10-year-olds who agreed that too early was not good to have cell phones. They said 10, pretty good, but you could even stretch it to 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So here they are themselves. They are acknowledging the dangers of having it too early. As parents, as guardians, as people who are responsible for children, do your research. Don't get scared. I'm not asking you to, because there are things out there that can make you afraid. Oh my gosh, this is going to happen to my kid. But do your research around what are the things that happen when your children get cell phones, and have the conversation. Have you heard about this? Do you know about this? Here are what are the things that we want to put in place so that these things don't happen. Encourage them to talk, to do more than say that's not going to happen, or I'm not, to actually discuss the pros and cons, because you don't want to scare them either, and let them understand and be able to think critically and have their own explanation for what they're thinking around this.
Yeah. And I would say for my numbers people out there, because I know a lot of people are numbers people, right? Uh, you know, there are like algorithms to like a lot of this like tech and stuff, like it like designed stuff and like things that are continuously fed, right? So I think just another thing to consider even when you're doing your research is like, you know, in whatever you're seeing that's documented, just consider the things that are undocumented, right? The things that have not been said, the stories that we've overlooked, right? The stories that, you know, get flooded just because of the other ones. And it's not to say one story is better or, you know, worse than another. It's to say there's just so much more of this going on than we could ever really, of anything going on, that we could ever really sit here and say like 1000% for most things, like this is fact, right? Like for a lot of things, right? So just something to consider.
Yeah. And on the research too, interesting thing, posture is affected and eyesight is affected by cell phone use. And you just think about how much we're looking down and how much we're looking at screens.
Yeah, that's real.
The second one, for listen to understand. I know that when there is a limitation or expectation that you're going to put on children, we can tend to just talk over them or not allow them in the conversation. I say invite them into the conversation to explain why they want to have a cell phone at whatever age it is. And hey, I'm not saying that if they're asking at 6 or 7 that you're going to give it to them. I'm just saying that you get them in the habit, though, of being to talk about it. And you also learn, what are these reasons? If it's because everybody has one, well, what's behind that? Why are they feeling that they have to do what everybody else does? And yes, there's a natural feeling of belonging, not wanting to be outside of things, not wanting to be teased, bullied. I get that, but is there a self-esteem issue that needs to really be handled in your own home, in your own environment? Because otherwise we're teaching our children to get their self-esteem outside of themselves, right? And the people who are their most support. So really listen, understand why my child, don't dismiss and poo-poo them. They don't know what's good for them. Allow them to at least try to tell their story around why they're looking to have a cell phone at this age.
Yeah. I thought that was beautiful. I don't really have to add to that. It's pretty perfect, but very important. Very important.
Oh, you wrote this. I gotta have you say.
Oh yeah, get rid of this. All adults, all of you, get rid of this. The whole "because I said so" thing. I encourage people who, you know, have used this and it worked through and through as a tactic, right? Even as people have gotten young people have gotten older and stuff. Please, I would love for you to, you know, let us know, you know, what that looks like, because I just know how young people operate. It's like, honestly, when you hit them with "because I said so" or just like "no" or whatever it is, right? As we've said, they're gonna find a way to do it anyway, right? And so I think when you make these things just a conversation, right? When you actually encourage, just piggybacking off of listen to understand, when you encourage, you know, simply saying, well, I don't know what that looks like for you in your time, in your growing up, right? Like knowing these things are different. I just think that works so many wonders for the humanity of these dynamics, right? Like of these important relationships. We're all human. There are things that we don't know, right? And and we're not better than anyone, and all of these things, right? We really are like regardless of where people are in life, arms locked, a part of this one big collective that make up the world. And so I think when you do the whole because I said so, and I know better, and I know what's better for my child than the literal child telling you, right, or any of those things, just doesn't open up any sort of real like humanity for the relationship. And I think young people are simply looking for that like all the time. We're looking for people we can relate to, right? We're looking for people who can tell us some of their stories that, of things that are similar to what we're going through, right? So that we can feel a little bit better about the future, right? Like we're already thinking the future and long term and all this stuff by the ages of like, I don't even know, like that's probably some research I have to do, right? But again, just open up that humanity a little bit. I know, there are just some people out there who have, grew up a lot more old school, and that's just what it was for you. And so, I completely recognize that and respect that as a tactic, right, to use. And sometimes you do have to lay the law. Sometimes you do have to put your foot down and say, this is what it is. And literally for the sake of you, and my want for you and love for you and all that stuff, right? I got to put my foot down, right? I completely respect those moments. It's when you make that culture that you are not at all really inviting that humanity of understanding truly, who your kids are and who they're becoming. So I think that we just lose it. I say lose it altogether, but I say that, I say that to say that, there are times where lay that law down, do what you got to do, and even then hear them out for whatever it is their experience is, because that's their human experience, right? So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I'd say that when we say ditch this, we really are building on what you just said. We're not saying that there aren't times when you have to say because I said so. We get that piece.
Right.
But if this is all you do and you've had no conversation around it, I don't want to hear it. I heard that a lot growing up. You don't want to hear what? I haven't even said anything. I haven't said anything yet. At least you should want to hear it. If you already know, and they're coming at you at 8 or 9 years old, and you already know there's no way they're getting a cell phone at that age, it doesn't hurt you to hear what they have to say about it, if they're able to formulate a good argument or reason, or just what they're feeling right now about it. Saying because I said so in those moments without having the opportunity for them to express what's going on for them, then that really does shut down and damage the relationship. You got to be able to know when this is necessary and when it's not. And heck, I get it.
Yep.
Like you said, some folks are old school and this is never going to fly with them no matter what we say. That's cool. But open up your mind a little bit to just think about when it comes to this, because this is so important, right?
Yeah. We as young people can take no. Just hear us before you decide on no, or whatever it is, right? But we can take that, like we really can. It's just that we often aren't heard for what's really like our experience of like, oh, you're too young to know this, or you're too young to, right? Like nothing's off limits when you start bringing tech into the household, right? Like that's just what it is, right? And so I don't think there's no one right answer as much as people, try to think, right? And so just open yourself up to the conversation, right? And I think that the more open you stay, the less that this will honestly be like your culture go-to for you, right? Your go-to, like that's your main tool of like laying the law down or putting your foot down. It's just because I said so, or you don't know, or you don't. That's just not inviting. So I think this is a great episode, just in the sense of it's very telling for times right now, right? As I said at the top, tech is here, coming. It's not going anywhere. It's only getting deeper, scarier in some respects, right? Like I'll just say it, scarier in some respects. And again, like we could even say, probably like 20 years ago that it wasn't this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet look how quickly we got here.
Yeah.
Right. And so the reality is, I am so about keeping these conversations open and ongoing, right? Like the way that something landed for you a year ago is not necessarily the way it's going to land for you, where you are now. And I think that because we literally leave this earth, whenever we do, as unfinished products, like we leave still not knowing stuff, we leave still not having experienced some stuff. That's why we get, I don't know what people's beliefs are out there, but that's why we transcend into another realm as souls and as energies and sources of such, right, to experience those other things and more. And I think that you know it doesn't hurt to talk, until that time comes. It doesn't hurt to be curious until that time comes. And it doesn't hurt to take in people's experiences for what it is, and just leave it there, right? While offering, of course, that safe space to say, like, whether I agree or not, whether I got to lay the law down, right, for the sake of this friendship, for the sake of your health, for the sake of whatever, right? You can still come talk to me about this, mm-hmm. right? I think that a lot of people need that, especially right now. I know I value those spaces and the spaces that I have it. And, I just wish more people had that, especially outside of, communities that are on, tech devices, right? Mm-hmm. People have communities on tech devices, and that's their way of communicating and, getting that human interaction. And so, let's just be open with each other. Let's keep talking, right? Let's keep asking questions. And I think we'll be in much better shape personally. And then, of course, the more that we make that culture, right, keep sweeping in front of our own doorstep and then helping those next to us, right, we all can get to that place, right? And so that's what I would say.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there's nothing wrong with a rite of passage. A rite of passage meaning that when you turn whatever that age is, you'll get a cell phone. There's nothing wrong with setting that mm-hmm. as a boundary limitation or expectation or something to look forward to. At the same time, there's a real important need to pay attention to our own cell phone use as adults because we're modeling, right? And to what our children are doing with their cell phones. It's easy enough to see if your child cannot, it's like an appendage. Your child cannot leave a room without their cell phone, right? It's easy enough to see that. It's easy enough to see if you say, we're all putting our cell phones out in the living room when we go to bed at night. We're not using them, none of us. It's easy enough to see the reaction to that, because I've definitely seen and read about and heard about children, teenagers who lose it when their cell phones are taken away, even for a day, and some for even a couple of hours, or they have to go back home because they left their cell phone at home, and they want you to drive them home, or they've got to skip a class because they cannot be at school without their cell phone.
And kids will get a burner or a second one before that even happens.
Okay, see, I know that.
Not like, but like, if one phone wasn't working, if I upgraded or something, I might have not turned it in. So it's like a little whatever. Yeah, absolutely. So kids
all
are
the things you learn.
Yep. If that's happening,
by having a conversation.
Yep. If that's happening, you can bet kids are finding new ways, quicker ways, better ways, more efficient ways to make sure that they never have to deal with that kind of situation. So
and you're talking.
I appreciate.
Oh, sorry. And you're talking about. Good stuff. They may not have cell phones until 10, 11, 12. Right. But a lot of our kids are very used to screen time. So
I agree.
Whether they have their own gadget, or I've seen parents like, oh, this kid won't be quiet, hand them their cell phone, right? And they put some program or tech on there so you're getting them used to expecting to have some kind of tech as a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
We have to really pay attention to the fact that they're going to be a lot savvier on these devices than we are, even if we have the devices ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a completely new day for my generation. I'll tell you that. And then the other thing, well, you do. I think in a lot of cases for growing up, for raising children, we have turned to the elder wisdom. And a lot of us do not have elders who grew up with this issue. So there is no wisdom coming from above.
There's none very of that. Deep point. Wow.
And you really do have to pay attention to, if you're not having these conversations, your kids are not getting the wisdom either.
That's a beautiful ending point right there. I mean, we probably are going to continue this conversation after we end this broadcast. We just have to let the next show go, of course. And so y'all know what it is over here. Please, any support that y'all give, a like, a follow, a share, all of it, small as all, it all adds up for us. We appreciate every single ounce of support.
Yeah.
Watch us live, e360tv.com, Trajectory Channel, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV. We got a couple other sponsors coming on our way.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that.
And I want to say thank you to all of you who are tuning in on those places, because we know that you are, and we are grateful. Keep tuning in. Tell your friends, tell your families. Please.
Awesome. You got us on YouTube, Working It Out Across Generations. Got us on Facebook, Working It Out TV show. Again, just so appreciate the engagement. We've been really, peeping every comment, every view. And again, we love doing this. These are conversations that we genuinely just have all the time. And just to have a platform to be able to do that, it really is an honor. So to anyone who's tuned in, thank you.
Yes.
Y'all know how we end these things. Conflict is here to teach you something about yourself. So go out there and find out what that is. I'm Justin.
And I'm Dr. Lynne, and thanks for tuning in, and tune in next week.
See you soon. Good stuff.
Good stuff.